I've got some troubling news about England's royal family.
I have some worrying news about England's royal family. Charles no longer trusts the woman living beside him, and everything started with Camilla's recent strange disappearances at night. With a king's sharp instinct, Charles decided to follow her secret late-night meetings, which led him to a hidden room in the eastern wing of the residence. Inside that room, the name Andrew Parker B.S., Camilla's former husband, showed up everywhere in photos, letters, and signs of a relationship that everyone believed had been buried long ago. But what truly sent a cold shiver down Charles's spine was not just the suspicious affair itself, but a secret connected to the very survival of the late Princess Diana. As the evidence slowly came into view, Charles had no choice but to ask himself what terrible truth had been hidden for so many years. This morning at sunrise, the royal residence was filled with a heavy, suffocating silence. Soft sunlight passed through the thick curtains, lighting up the serious and tired face of King Charles. He stood straight in front of his most trusted inner circle and several high-ranking royal officials. His voice was quiet, but every word carried the force of a final decision. "I have made my decision. I will divorce Camilla at the same time. I am thinking about raising Catherine to queen sooner than planned. The reason is that Camilla has committed repeated acts of betrayal and unfaithfulness against the royal family." The room became completely silent and no one dared to speak. There were only shocked and worried looks, mixed with a slight sense of hidden relief. Charles gave a small nod, said nothing else, and turned to walk out of the room. Behind his strong and firm appearance, a storm had been growing in his heart for a very long time. Exactly 1 month earlier, no one could have imagined that things would change so much. Charles was still living his usual royal life. He was busy with important meetings, official visits, and many serious decisions for the country. Camilla was still the woman he trusted, the one who had stayed by his side through many years of public pressure. However, the change started quietly but steadily. Camilla suddenly became unusually busy. She would disappear for many hours, sometimes staying away until very late at night. At first, her reasons sounded completely normal: meeting old friends, attending private charity events, or simply needing some personal time after years of stress. Charles did not pay much attention at the beginning. He believed that everyone needed their own moments of peace. But slowly, things stopped matching up. Camilla's official schedule, including ribbon cuttings, hospital visits, and announced charity events, no longer lined up with the time she was missing. One time, she said she had to quickly fly to London because her sister had suddenly fallen ill and was in the hospital. Yet only 2 days later, Charles found out by chance that her sister was perfectly fine and enjoying a holiday in the south of France. These small details kept building up, making it impossible for him not to question what was happening. Charles began to feel a deep and serious discomfort inside. This was not simple jealousy from a husband. This was the worry of a king who had seen too many schemes, betrayals, and dark secrets inside the palace over many years. He knew very well that the royal family could not allow any weakness to remain for long. And this time, the weakness seemed to be coming from the very woman he had trusted completely. One late night, when Camilla returned to the residence close to midnight once again, Charles sat alone in his large study room. The golden desk lamp shone softly on his face. He held the armrest tightly and whispered in a voice full of pain and anger, "Camilla, what are you doing? What are you hiding from me?" From that moment on, Charles started watching his wife's behavior much more carefully. He noticed that most of her strange trips led to the eastern wing of the residence, a quiet and rarely used area filled with old hallways and storage rooms that were almost never visited. Those small signs, even though unclear, were enough to light the fire of suspicion in his heart. After nearly a week of being troubled by these unclear doubts, Charles could no longer stay still. That he understood clearly that in the royal family, waiting too long could bring serious danger. So, he decided to act in a calm, careful, and very secret way. Charles began to quietly watch Camilla step by step without letting her or anyone else notice. He did not hire outside investigators, but instead chose a small group of completely loyal aides. All reports were sent directly to him, without passing through anyone else. Camilla's actions became more and more suspicious. She no longer tried very hard to hide them. That night, from a window on the second floor, Charles's team saw her return with a very tense expression. She held a dark leather bag tightly and walked quickly into the residence without looking at anyone. The perfect chance came on an afternoon in early April. Camilla announced that she would attend a large charity event in London and might come back late. Charles agreed with a calm nod and even wished her a pleasant afternoon. But the moment her car left through the main gate, he moved into action. Using a spare key that he had prepared earlier, Charles walked toward the secret room. The heavy door slowly opened, showing a cold and damp space inside. The smell of old paper and rotting would hit his nose strongly. He stepped inside, his eyes carefully checking every corner. Inside was a private collection of personal memories. On the table, stuck on the walls, and hidden inside drawers were many clear pieces of evidence: old photographs of Camilla and Andrew Parker Bowles in close and intimate poses, handwritten letters in a familiar style, and most importantly, a thick leather-bound diary whose cover was worn from time. Charles picked up the diary. His hand shook slightly as he turned the pages. Camilla's words appeared clear, detailed, and cold. She wrote openly about Andrew's planned approach to Diana in Scotland many years earlier. The carefully chosen words were meant to make Diana feel that she was only a replacement, just a second shadow in Charles's heart. The diary did not only speak about the past. It also included recent notes about secret phone calls, plans for meetings, and her growing fear. As William became more and more important in the royal family, Charles stood still for a long time in the darkroom. Anger and pain rushed through him, making him hold the diary so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His voice came out, filled with both pain and firm resolve. "After all these years of protecting you, trusting you, and giving you the highest place, you still cannot let him go. You even helped hurt Diana." He did not break anything or shout loudly. Charles simply stood there, breathing deeply to control his feelings. This was no longer just a suspicion, this was real and undeniable proof. Camilla was not only being unfaithful now, but had clearly kept a deep relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles, the man who had played a role in Diana's tragedy. Charles carefully put everything back exactly where it was. He locked the door tightly as if nothing had happened, and walked out of the eastern wing with slow, heavy steps. Suspicion had now turned into a cold and unchangeable truth. From that moment, Charles clearly understood the path ahead, that he needed stronger and more solid proof before taking action. He whispered to himself in the empty hallway, his voice full of cold determination. "Camilla, you have gone too far, and this time I will not ignore it." That evening, Charles sat alone in his large study. The golden desk lamp lit up the thick diary that was still open on the table. Every line of Camilla's writing felt like a sharp knife cutting deep into his heart. In 1995, after Camilla and Andrew Parker Bowles officially divorced in public, the whole nation of Britain believed that the two had completely ended their relationship. The media presented the divorce as a peaceful and friendly separation, but the truth hidden in the dark was completely different. They had never truly gone their separate ways. The divorce was only a perfect mask to fool the public and the royal family. Behind that mask, Camilla and Andrew continued a secret romantic and financial relationship for many years. When Charles married Diana, the two had already agreed on a cold and carefully planned idea. The main goal was to weaken Diana's mind and make her always feel like she was only a replacement. Just a supporting figure in the love story between Charles and Camilla. Andrew took on the most important and risky role in this plan. He purposely got close to Diana during a private trip in Scotland. With a fake caring voice, Andrew spoke words that were as sharp as knives. "Diana, you know Charles has never really forgotten Camilla. You are only his second choice point. One day, he will go back to the real woman in his life. You are only temporary." Those words were repeated so skillfully that Diana never realized they were part of a planned scheme. She fell into deep sadness, suffered strong self-doubt, grew distant from Charles, and slowly sank into depression. Andrew's quiet mental manipulation played a major role in quickly breaking the relationship between Charles and Diana, leading to the tragic and scandal-filled divorce that came after. After the divorce, Camilla and Andrew became even closer. They continued meeting in secret and worked together more closely than before. Andrew gained many benefits from Camilla, both financially and through powerful social connections. Camilla gave him resources, while Andrew helped her hide every trace and keep her influence secret. They believed that this secret would stay hidden forever. Recently, as William started to shine more and rise higher within the royal family, Camilla became extremely worried. She feared that the past would be discovered, especially if there were internal investigations into royal history. That was why she contacted Andrew more often than ever before. She asked him to help completely remove the remaining evidence, old letters, private photos, and most importantly, the dangerous entries in her diary. Andrew agreed to help, but only with clear and greedy demands. In one secret phone call, he had laughed coldly. "Camilla, do not forget how much I helped you in Scotland in 1995. You remember how deeply those words hurt Diana." It had worked so well that even Charles had never suspected anything. "Now, if you want to erase everything and keep your position as queen, you must pay a fair price. I do not work for free." Camilla accepted every demand without any hesitation. She was ready to pay any cost just to protect her current status and her future. In the diary, she wrote painful and troubled lines. "If William rises even higher, everything will be uncovered again. I cannot allow the past to destroy everything I have worked so hard to build. Andrew is the key. It must be handled cleanly." Charles shut the diary with a loud slam that echoed through the silent room. His hands trembled with rising anger. The pain was not only about present betrayal. This was a betrayal that stretched across decades, one that had directly played a part in Diana's tragedy, the long years of suffering in the royal family, and the pain his sons had lived through. He stood up and walked to the big window, staring out at the wide courtyard covered in darkness. His voice was low, but full of strong determination. "I will not let this continue. The truth must come out. No matter how painful it is, no matter how big the scandal becomes, I will see it through to the end. No more hiding. No more cover-ups." After finding the secret room and the diary filled with shocking proof, Charles understood he could not stop here. Suspicion had already turned into clear truth, but he still needed stronger and more solid evidence before taking action that could trigger an uncontrollable royal crisis. As a king who had survived many storms, Charles chose to move in a cold, careful, and highly secret way. He gathered a small group of his most loyal aides, people who had served him for years and could be trusted to remain completely silent. In a private meeting, Charles told them clearly, "You are only to observe and record. Do not interfere. I need facts, not guesses." Their job was to secretly watch all of Camilla's movements, especially her trips at night. Every morning, detailed reports about her schedule, routes, and movement patterns were quietly delivered to him through private channels. The results of the surveillance made Charles even more worried. Camilla's night trips had increased sharply in recent weeks. She usually left the residence around midnight, always driving herself and returning before sunrise. She never used a royal driver or any official car. This only confirmed to Charles that she was deliberately hiding something very important. Not satisfied with watching from a distance, Charles took a dangerous and bold step. One late night, while Camilla was asleep, he quietly went to her private car in the garage. With slightly trembling hands from tension, he placed a small hidden tracking device inside the car. The device recorded conversations inside the vehicle and tracked its movements. It gave off no signal that could be detected. Charles did this completely alone so that no one would know. From that moment, every action Camilla took inside the car was fully recorded. At the same time, Charles ordered a comparison of Andrew Parker Bowles's movement records with key moments from Diana's past. The results sent a cold shock through him. Andrew's travels matched suspiciously with the times Diana was most emotionally broken, especially after the Scotland retreat in 1995. Although this was not enough for a direct legal case, the pattern of timing was strong enough for Charles to reach one conclusion. Andrew and Camilla had been working together for a long time under a carefully planned arrangement. Every night, Charles sat alone in his study, going through reports and recordings. He clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white, whispering in anger and pain. "You changed Diana's life. You changed the whole royal family. All for power and money. Was I really so blind to trust Camilla?" He knew he could not act too quickly. One wrong move could bring a new crisis to the monarchy, deeply affecting William, Harry, and the royal family's global reputation. So Charles kept reminding himself to stay patient. "I need unquestionable proof. Proof strong enough to end everything. Only then will I act." In the days that followed, the pressure inside Charles kept growing. On the outside, he stayed completely normal. He attended meetings, met guests, and took part in royal duties as if nothing had changed. But inside, he was caught in a hard struggle between the pain of a betrayed husband and the heavy duty of a king. He realized this was not just a broken marriage. It was a long-running plan to quietly control and manipulate the royal family from within. The investigation continued silently, without stopping, and with full focus. Charles knew that if Camilla and Andrew made even the smallest mistake, everything would collapse. And he was ready, waiting for that exact moment when he could reveal the full truth with no turning back. Meanwhile, Camilla clearly began to feel the pressure rising. In recent days, she noticed Charles looking at her differently, his eyes colder and quieter than before. Afraid that the past might resurface as William gained more importance, Camilla decided not to wait any longer. She directly contacted Andrew Parker Bowles through a secure and private channel. The two of them quickly arranged a late-night meeting in a hidden place outside the residence. It was a quiet road deep inside a small forest where very few cars ever passed, and the darkness was complete. That night, Camilla's car stopped by the roadside. Andrew was already waiting in the shadows. She got out, and they quickly sat inside the car together, closing the dark, heavily tinted windows. The air inside felt tense and heavy. Camilla spoke first, unable to hide her urgency. "We must go over everything again. The diary I left in the Eastern Room must be burned tomorrow. The old letters and the photos of us in Scotland from 1995 must also be destroyed. I don't want anything left that can lead back to our plan to pressure Diana. If William finds out that what happened back then was planned by us, he will never forgive us." Andrew nodded, but the edge of his mouth still carried a cold, confident smile. "You are worrying too much, Camilla. Charles is busy with national affairs. He does not have time to suspect his own wife." Camilla gave him an annoyed look but still replied, "I will transfer £200,000 to your old account tomorrow morning, as we agreed. But everything must be completely clean. No electronic trace. From now on, our calls must stop too." Andrew gave a mocking laugh, his voice filled with greed and confidence. "Fine, Camilla. Our past is not cheap. Remember Scotland in 1995? I went to Diana and made her feel small. That one sentence destroyed her. Now, if you want to erase everything and keep your position as queen, you must pay the right price." Camilla held the steering wheel tightly. Her voice shook slightly, but she stayed firm. "Do not bring that up again. I am doing this for both of us. Charles has not fully suspected anything yet, but I feel he is changing. If the truth comes out, everything will fall apart. Destroy everything, Andrew. I will send the money first thing tomorrow." They kept going over the old plan together. They remembered their secret meetings, the letters, and how they worked together to pressure Diana. Andrew let out a cold laugh. "We did it perfectly. Diana never even guessed that it was you and me behind it. Now we just need to burn what is left, and it will be finished." Camilla nodded, but deep inside she felt uneasy. They stayed in the car for almost an hour, going over every detail of how to destroy the remaining evidence. In the end, they separated in the darkness, both believing their secret was still safe. They had no idea that Camilla's car had already been secretly fitted with a recording device by Charles several days earlier. Every word, every sentence, every mocking laugh had been clearly recorded. At the same time, Charles' remote team had also captured the entire meeting using infrared cameras. The evidence was now complete and undeniable. When Camilla drove back to the residence late that night, she still believed she was in control. But in reality, everything had already fallen into Charles' hands. The very meeting meant to destroy evidence had become the strongest proof against her. The next morning, when Charles received the report and audio files, he sat in silence, staring at the screen. The anger inside him had reached its limit. His voice came out in a cold whisper. "This is enough. Tomorrow, it all ends." The next morning, the royal residence felt even heavier and more suffocating. Charles called an emergency internal meeting with only the highest-ranking aides. Camilla was also invited, still wearing her calm and composed expression. She sat in her usual seat, but inside, she was already feeling uneasy. Charles walked into the room with steady steps. His face was serious, with no sign of emotion. He placed the recording device and a thick file on the table, looked straight at Camilla, and spoke. "Camilla, today I will be direct. I know everything." Without waiting for her response, Charles played the recording. Camilla and Andrew's voices filled the silent room. Every plan to destroy evidence, every memory of the 1995 Scotland scheme against Diana, every money transfer, and Andrew's cold laughter played clearly, word for word. At the same time, clear infrared footage of their nighttime meeting inside the car appeared on the large screen. There was no room for doubt. Camilla's face turned pale. Her hands trembled as she tried to speak calmly, but panic was clear in her voice. "Charles, this is a misunderstanding. I only met Andrew to settle old matters. It is nothing serious." Charles cut her off in a cold and heavy voice. "No more misunderstandings, Camilla. You have betrayed me, you have betrayed Diana, and you have betrayed the entire royal family. You and Andrew have been working together for years to manipulate and harm Diana for power and money. This evidence is enough." The room felt completely frozen. Some aides lowered their heads, unable to look. Camilla tried one last time to defend herself, her voice shaking as she spoke. "Charles, we have been together for so many years. Don't let one mistake destroy everything. For the sake of the royal family, for William and Harry." Charles stood up and looked directly into her eyes. His expression was firm and unchanging. "It is exactly for the sake of the royal family that I must do this. I will divorce you. Princess Catherine is far more suitable to stand beside me and take on the role of queen. You will leave the center of power immediately." Camilla collapsed back into her chair. Her face had lost all color. She had no words left to say. The meeting ended in heavy silence. News spread quickly afterward. Andrew Parker Bowles also faced immediate consequences. All the connections, influence, and financial benefits he had gained through Camilla were cut off completely. In just one night, he lost almost everything. People who once stayed close to him now avoided him, leaving him isolated and broken. Charles stood alone by the large window of the residence, staring out at the wide courtyard. He took a deep breath and spoke in a low but steady voice. Mistakes from the past will always come out if they are not fully dealt with. I have done what had to be done. The royal family will move forward stronger and more honest. Later that same afternoon, the divorce announcement was made public. The whole United Kingdom, and much of the world, was shocked. Some people were surprised, but many also felt relief that the royal family had chosen truth instead of hiding things any longer. Catherine was now being considered for an earlier rise to queen than originally planned, bringing a new sense of change to the monarchy. Charles knew the road ahead would not be easy. There were wounds left in his heart, but at the same time, there was a strange calmness. He was no longer trapped by hidden secrets. This time, he was the one shaping what came next. The British royal family had entered a new chapter, and a long-hidden secret had finally been brought into the light. If you were in Camilla's place, would you see this as protecting her private past or as an unforgivable betrayal?